So let me make sure I understand this correctly. NASA spent billions of dollars developing a mission to bring back rocks from Mars. They've got a rover up there right now actively collecting samples, and then they just gave up?
Gave up is a bit harsh. More like suffered a catastrophic existential crisis and are currently reassessing their entire life choices.
NASA spent billions of dollars developing a mission to bring back rocks from Mars. They've got a rover up there right now, actively collecting samples, and then they just gave up.
Gave up is a bit harsh. More like suffered a catastrophic existential crisis and are currently reassessing their entire life choices.
NASA, the mission budget went from $5 billion to $11 billion. The timeline slipped from 2033 to 2040, and as of right now, it's unclear if it's even going to happen.
When you put it that way, yes, it's basically a dumpster fire. An $11 billion dumpster fire.
Meanwhile, China announced they're launching their Mars sample return mission in 2028 and bringing back samples by 2031, nearly a decade before NASA's revised timeline.
And they're doing it for a fraction of the cost, with a simpler design. So yes, this is America's space program having what we in the industry call a very bad day. A very bad, very expensive, very public day.
Welcome to the $11 billion Mars mission falling apart while China raises ahead. I'm Marcus Chen.
And I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez. Today we're diving into one of the most expensive failures in NASA's recent history. A mission that was supposed to be the crown jewel of planetary exploration and instead became a cautionary tale about bureaucracy, budget overruns, and what happens when you try to build a rocket to launch from another planet without actually having a clue how to do it.
That's a bit dramatic.
Alina, Marcus, wait until you hear about the Mars Ascent vehicle. Then you'll understand why dramatic is actually underselling it.
All right, buckle up everyone. We're about to explore how NASA's most important Mars mission turned into a budget nightmare, why China might beat America to one of the biggest prizes in planetary science, and what this means for the future of space exploration. April 15th, 2024. That's the day NASA Administrator Bill Nelson held a press conference that basically amounted to, "We have a problem." Elena, walk me through what happened.
So NASA had commissioned an independent review board to assess the Mars Sample Return Mission. Let's call it MSR for short. And this review board came back with findings that were, to put it mildly, devastating.
How devastating are we talking?
The mission was originally estimated at about $5 to $7 billion total, with samples returning to Earth by 2033. The review board said, actually, this is going to cost more than $11 billion, and you won't get samples back until 2040.
That's not a small discrepancy.
It's a $4 to $6 billion overrun and a 7-year delay. In NASA's terms, that's called career-ending levels of screwed.
And Bill Nelson's response?
He essentially said, this is unacceptable, we're hitting pause, and we need new ideas. His exact words were that $11 billion would force NASA to cannibalize other programs, and that 2040 is unacceptably too long.
What programs would get cannibalized?
Dragonfly, a mission to Saturn's moon Titan, NEO Surveyor, tracking potentially hazardous asteroids, Da Vinci and Veritas Venus missions. All of these are scientifically important. And MSR was basically threatening to eat their lunch money.
Okay, but let's back up. Why is Mars sample return such a big deal in the first place? Why are we spending billions to bring back some rocks?
Because those aren't just some rocks. These samples could answer one of the most profound questions in science. Has life ever existed beyond Earth?
We can't just study them with rovers?
Rovers are amazing, but they're limited. The instruments we can send to Mars have to be small, lightweight, and ruggedized to survive launch and landing. The most sophisticated labs on Earth, with electron microscopes, mass spectrometers, clean rooms, can detect biosignatures that rovers would miss completely.
So it's like the difference between examining evidence with a magnifying glass versus a full forensics lab.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Perseverance, NASA's rover currently on Mars, has been collecting samples since February 2021. It's been drilling into rocks in Jezero crater, which used to be an ancient lake bed. If life ever existed on Mars, that's a prime location to find evidence of it.
So we already have the samples.
Perseverance has collected over 30 samples stored in sealed tubes. It dropped 10 of them on the Martian surface as a backup cache in case the rover fails. The rest are still on board, including one sample called Chayava Falls that scientists are particularly excited about.
What makes Chayava Falls special?
It's a rock speckled with iron-rich minerals in organic compounds. Basically, it has features that could be biosignatures. Could also be geological processes. We won't know until we bring it to Earth and study it properly.
So we've got potentially the most important scientific samples in history just sitting on Mars, and we can't figure out how to bring them back.
Welcome to the fundamental problem. The samples are there, the scientific justification is ironclad, the decadal survey, which is basically the planetary science community's wish list, ranked this as the top priority, and yet we can't execute.
Why not? What's so hard about this?
Oh, Marcus, where do I even start? The technical challenges are absolutely bonkers. First, you need to land a spacecraft on Mars carrying a rocket, the Mars Ascent vehicle.
Okay, we've landed things on Mars before.
Yes, but this lander would be carrying the MAV, sample collection hardware, and all the support equipment. It's heavy and complicated. Then, the MAV has to launch from Mars, which has never been done. No rocket has ever launched from another planet.
Wait, seriously?
Seriously, we've launched from the moon, but that's different. Lower gravity, no atmosphere. Mars has significant gravity and a thin atmosphere that's just thick enough to cause problems, but not thick enough to help much.
So how do you launch from Mars?
That's the $11 billion question. You need a rocket small enough to fit on the lander, but powerful enough to reach Mars orbit. It has to sit on the Martian surface for months, surviving temperatures down to minus 90 degrees Celsius. It has to launch autonomously, no ground crew, no launch pad infrastructure.
And it's carrying precious cargo that cannot fail.
Right? If the MAV fails, you've lost years of work and billions of dollars. This isn't like a commercial satellite launch where failure is acceptable. This is a one-shot deal.
Okay, so launching from Mars is hard. What else?
Oh, once the Mars reaches Mars orbit, it has to rendezvous with another spacecraft provided by the European Space Agency. This orbiter has to capture the sample container and then fly back to Earth. A 2-year journey.
And when it gets to Earth?
The samples have to enter Earth's atmosphere and land without burning up or contaminating the environment. Remember, we don't know if there's Martian biology in those samples. Planetary protection protocols are strict.
So you're coordinating multiple launches from Earth, a landing on Mars, a launch from Mars, an orbital rendezvous, a 2-year return journey, and a safe Earth entry all autonomously millions of miles away with no room for error.
Now you understand why the budget exploded. This is arguably the most complex robotic mission ever attempted.
And the timeline keeps slipping?
The original plan had launches starting around 2026, then it became 2028. The independent review board said, realistically, not before 2030, and samples won't return until 2040.
Ouch.
Yeah, and here's the political reality. Congress cut NASA's 2024 budget by $500 million. Planetary science took a $1 billion hit. There's no appetite for an $11 billion mission that won't deliver results for 15 years.
So what's NASA doing?
In April 2024, Nelson announced they were soliciting new proposals from industry and NASA centers. The goal was to find cheaper, faster alternatives. They wanted responses by fall 2024.
And did they get them?
They did. Multiple concepts came back, ranging from $6 to $8 billion with earlier return dates. In January 2025, NASA presented two main options, one using a modified JPL Skycrane lander, the other using a commercial heavy lander.
So there's hope.
There's options. Whether there's hope depends on the Trump administration and Congress. NASA punted it to the new administration, which took office in January 2025.
Why punt it?
Because this is too big and too expensive for an outgoing administration to commit to. And politically, having multiple options lets the new team put their stamp on it.
Who's in charge now?
Jared Isaacman was nominated as NASA administrator. He's a billionaire, close ally of Elon Musk, and a huge proponent of commercial space.
So SpaceX might get involved.
It's possible. Musk literally tweeted after Nelson's announcement that Starship has the potential to return serious tonnage from Mars within about 5 years.
Is that feasible?
Technically, maybe. Politically and programmatically, it's complicated, but we'll get to that.
All right, before we dive deeper, I need to understand one thing. If this mission is so important and so difficult, why did NASA think they could pull it off in the first place?
Because they're NASA. They put people on the moon. They've landed multiple rovers on Mars. There's an institutional confidence that says we're good at hard things.
But this time that confidence was misplaced?
This time, they underestimated just how hard it would be. And they're paying for it now.
Okay. You keep mentioning this Mars Ascent vehicle, the MAV, like it's the root of all evil. Let's talk about why this thing is such a problem.
The MAV is genuinely the most challenging piece of this mission. It's a rocket that has to do something no rocket has ever done before, and there's no established expertise to draw from.
Explain that. We've been building rockets for 70 years.
Yes, but we've been building Earth launch rockets. Big rockets launched from pods with ground support crews in Earth's atmosphere and gravity. The MAV is fundamentally different.
How different?
It has to be small, ideally 350 kilograms or less. For comparison, a Falcon 9 rocket weighs 500,000 kilograms. The MAV has to fit inside a lander that fits inside a launch vehicle fairing.
So it's tiny.
Tiny, but powerful. It has to generate about 4,000 meters per second of delta V. That's the velocity change needed to reach Mars orbit from the surface. That's comparable to what you need to reach low Earth orbit from sea level.
In a rocket that weighs less than a small car.
Exactly. And it has to do this after sitting on Mars for months, possibly a year, surviving the Martian environment.
What's so bad about the Martian environment?
Temperature swings from -90 to +20 degrees Celsius, dust storms that coat solar panels and get into everything, cosmic radiation with no magnetic field for protection, and remember, there's no ground crew to do maintenance or pre-launch checks.
So it has to be both powerful and rugged.
And autonomous. It has to light itself, guide itself, and perform the orbital insertion with no help from Earth. Communications lag means you can't control it in real time. Commands take 4 to 20 minutes each way.
That's terrifying.
It gets better. The MAV also has to have incredibly high reliability because there's no second chance. Commercial rockets have about 95 to 98% success rates, which sounds good, until you realize that means 2 to 5% failure.
And a 2% failure rate is unacceptable for this mission.
Correct. This has to be closer to 99.5% or better. But here's the problem. You improve reliability through testing and flight heritage. We have 0 flight heritage for Mars launches.
Can you test it on Earth?
You can test components, but you can't replicate the full flight environment. Mars has 38% of Earth's gravity and 1% of atmospheric pressure. There's nowhere on Earth that matches that.
So you're flying blind.
Essentially, and this terrifies NASA because they rely on proven technology. The agency's entire culture is built on heritage, using designs that have flown before and demonstrated success.
But the MAV has no heritage.
None. It's completely new. And that drives up risk, which drives up cost, which drives up development time.
What's the current MAV design?
As of the last public update, they're looking at a 2-stage solid rocket motor design. First stage gets you off the surface, second stage circularizes the orbit.
Why solid rockets?
They're simpler than liquid rockets, no pumps, no complex plumbing, no cryogenic fuels. You light them and they burn. That's appealing for a system that has to sit dormant for months, then work perfectly the first time.
But there's a downside.
Solid rockets can't be throttled or shut off once lit. And they're less efficient than liquid rockets, which means more mass for the same performance. There's a trade-off between simplicity and performance.
Have they tested the MAV?
They've tested development motors for both stages. In 2023, they did test fires at facilities in Maryland and California. The tests were successful, but those are just motor tests, not full vehicle tests.
So the technology exists, it's just unproven in the actual environment.
Right, and integrating all of the systems, propulsion, guidance, thermal management, power, into one vehicle that works reliably is the real challenge.
How long has NASA been working on the MAV?
Since 2001.
I'm sorry, what?
The first MAV concept studies were done in 2001, over 20 years ago. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and others submitted proposals. And we're still not done.
20 years and billions of dollars and we don't have a flight-ready MAV?
No, and that's part of why the costs keep ballooning. Development has been stop and start as budgets fluctuated and mission architectures changed.
Why did it take so long?
Partly funding, MSR has been a priority on paper, but not always in the budget. Partly technical challenges. Every time they solve one problem, another appears. And partly because nobody wants to commit to a design until they're certain it'll work.
But at some point, you have to commit.
That's the cultural challenge. A 2008 paper literally said the MAV poses not only a technical challenge, but also a cultural one for the planetary science community. Scientists and engineers are trained to be conservative, to use proven systems. The MAV requires taking risks.
And NASA's not good at risk anymore?
That's harsh, but not entirely wrong. After the Challenger and Columbia disasters, NASA became extremely risk-averse. The culture prioritizes safety and reliability above all else, which is admirable, but makes bold missions harder.
So the MAV is stuck in development hell because nobody wants to take responsibility for a potential failure.
That's part of it. There's also the technical reality that this is genuinely hard. A recent Space News article called the MAV a wild card for MSR, possibly even a hot potato, because there is no experience base for making such a rocket.
Hot potato?
Nobody wants to be holding it when it explodes, literally or figuratively. It's a career risk for whoever's in charge.
What's the alternative? Could you use a different design?
Multiple alternatives have been proposed over the years. Single-stage liquid rockets, hybrid motors, different propellant combinations, but they all have drawbacks.
What about using a bigger lander so you can use a bigger MAV?
That's one of the options NASA's considering. Use a heavy lander, potentially a commercial one, that can deliver a larger, more robust MAV. But that adds cost and complexity to the lander side.
It's all trade-offs.
Exactly. Smaller MAV means lighter lander but higher propulsion risk. Bigger MAV means heavier lander but potentially more margin for success. There's no free lunch.
Is there any scenario where the MAV works perfectly?
Sure, if you invest enough time and money in development and testing. But enough time might mean another 5 to 10 years, and enough money might push the mission cost even higher.
So we're stuck.
We're stuck between technical reality and budgetary reality. The mission needs more resources, but there's no political will to provide them.
And meanwhile, China is moving forward.
Oh, we're about to talk about China, because their approach to this problem is fascinating and very different from NASA's.
All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. While NASA is drowning in budget overruns and technical challenges, China announced they're doing their own Mars sample return. How realistic is that?
Very realistic. China's Tianwen-3 mission is scheduled to launch in 2028, with samples returning to Earth around 2031. And unlike NASA, they're not just talking about it, they're building it.
Wait, 2031? That's a decade before NASA's revised timeline.
Yep, 9 years earlier, and probably at a fraction of the cost, though China doesn't publicly release detailed budget figures.
How is that possible?
Because China is taking a fundamentally different approach. NASA's design is incredibly complex. Multiple missions, multiple spacecraft, international coordination. China's going with a simpler architecture.
How simple?
2 launches from Earth using Long March 5 rockets. One launch carries the lander and Ascent vehicle. The other carries the orbiter and Earth return vehicle. They fly to Mars separately, meet up in Mars orbit, and complete the mission.
That sounds like what NASA's doing.
The structure is similar, but the execution is simpler. For example, China's using a direct ascent strategy. No fetch rovers, no backup caches, no contingency plans stacked on contingency plans.
Explain the fetch rover thing.
NASA's original plan involved Perseverance collecting samples, then a future mission would send 2 fetch rovers to collect those samples and bring them to the lander. It added redundancy, but also complexity and cost.
And China's not doing that?
Nope. Tianwen-3's lander will do the sampling itself. It'll use 3 methods: surface scooping, deep drilling up to 2 meters, and a drone for remote collection.
A drone, like Ingenuity?
Similar concept. A small helicopter that can fly to locations within a few hundred meters of the lander, collect samples, and return. It's actually quite clever. It gives you range without the complexity of a full rover.
How much sample are they collecting?
At least 500 grams, roughly 18 ounces. That's comparable to what NASA was targeting.
And the drilling, 2 meters deep?
That's actually deeper than Perseverance's sampling. NASA's rover drills about 5 millimeters into rocks to extract cores. China's going 2 meters down to access subsurface material.
Why is that important?
Subsurface material is protected from radiation and oxidation. If there are biosignatures, they're more likely to be preserved below the surface. It's actually quite a smart strategy.
Okay, so China's sampling approach seems solid. What about their Mars Ascent vehicle? Do they have the same problems NASA does?
They probably face similar technical challenges, but they have advantages. First, the Long March 5 can launch more mass to Mars than the Atlas V that launched Perseverance. That means they can send a heavier lander with a more robust MAV.
So they're brute forcing the problem?
Essentially, instead of optimizing everything to be as light as possible, they're accepting a heavier system and using a bigger rocket to deliver it.
Does that work?
It should, though it requires new landing technology for heavier payloads. Mars's thin atmosphere makes slowing down harder for heavy objects. But China's been developing supersonic retropropulsion and other advanced landing techniques.
Have they tested any of this?
Their Tianwen-1 mission, which landed the Zhurong rover in May 2021, demonstrated successful Mars entry, descent, and landing. That gave them critical experience and validated their approach.
So they've already landed on Mars successfully?
Yes, which puts them in an elite club. Only the Soviet Union, the US, and China have successfully landed on Mars. That experience is invaluable for Tianwen-3.
What about the Ascent vehicle? Have they tested launching from Mars?
No one has. That's still a first for humanity. But China has done 2 successful lunar sample returns, Chang'e 5 in 2020 and Chang'e 6 in 2024. Those missions involved lunar surface sampling and ascent to orbit.
So they have experience with the concept, just not on Mars?
Right. And the moon is actually harder in some ways. No atmosphere to help with descent, and you need precise trajectory control for orbital rendezvous. China demonstrated they can do it twice.
Twice is better than 0 times, which is NASA's Mars Ascent experience.
Exactly. China's building on proven technology and scaling it up. NASA's trying to build something entirely new.
Where is China planning to land?
They've narrowed it down to 3 candidate zones, all in the northern hemisphere: Amazonas Planitia, Utopia Planitia, and Chrysae Planitia. These are ancient regions that potentially had water.
Same rationale as Perseverance's landing site?
Yes, go where water was, because water means potential habitability. The northern lowlands of Mars show evidence of ancient oceans, deltas, and lake beds.
When did they finalize the landing site?
By the end of 2026, they started with over 80 candidates, narrowed to 19, and will select 3 finalists for the mission.
And the mission timeline? 7 to 8 months to reach Mars, operate for about a year, then return journey. That's about 3 years total.
Right. Launch in late 2028, arrive at Mars mid-2029, spend a year collecting and preparing samples, launch back in mid-2030, arrive at Earth in 2031.
That's incredibly fast compared to NASA's timeline.
It is, but it's achievable if you hit every window and have no major delays. China's been pretty good at hitting their timelines in recent years.
Why? What's different about their approach?
Several factors. First, they have strong political support and long-term funding commitments. China's space program is a matter of national pride and international prestige.
Unlike NASA, which depends on annual congressional appropriations.
Exactly. NASA has to justify its budget every year and deal with changing political priorities. China's space agency operates on 5-year and longer plans with stable funding.
What else?
Less bureaucratic overhead. NASA's missions involve multiple centers, contractors, international partners, congressional oversight, independent review boards. There are a lot of stakeholders. China's program is more centralized.
So fewer cooks in the kitchen?
Basically, that can be good. Faster decisions, clearer authority. It can also be bad. Less scrutiny, potential for unchecked mistakes, trade-offs.
Is China's mission international?
Yes, actually. In March of 2025, they opened Tianwen-3 to international cooperation. They're offering 15 kilograms of mass on scientific payloads on the Earth return spacecraft and another 5 kilograms on the Mars orbiter.
That's surprising.
It's smart diplomacy. They're positioning themselves as collaborative global partners in space exploration. NASA used to have that role.
Used to?
Well, the US and China can't cooperate on space missions due to the Wolf Amendment, a 2011 law that prohibits NASA from working with China without explicit congressional approval.
Why?
National security concerns, technology transfer fears, general geopolitical tensions. The law was controversial in past and remains so.
So if China succeeds with Tianwen-3 and NASA's Mars MSR is still stuck, China gets to claim the prize?
They get to claim being first to return Mars samples. That's huge for prestige and scientific credibility.
What happens to the samples once China brings them back?
They're building a high-security Mars sample laboratory with ultra-clean and biosafety protocols, and they've said that they'll share samples with international scientists pending safety reviews.
Would American scientists get access?
Technically, yes, though political restrictions might complicate that. The Wolf Amendment could apply to analyzing Chinese returned samples, depending on how it's interpreted.
So we might be in a situation where China returns the first Mars samples. American scientists want to study them, but can't because of our own laws?
That would be peak irony. Yes.
This is absurd.
Welcome to space policy in the 21st century, where science gets tangled up in geopolitics and nobody's happy.
Okay, but let's be real. What are the chances China actually pulls this off? Is this propaganda or genuine capability?
Based on their track record, I'd say it's genuine. They've successfully landed on the moon multiple times, returned lunar samples twice, landed a rover on Mars, and are building a space station. They're not just talking, they're executing.
So NASA should be worried.
NASA absolutely should be worried. Bill Nelson himself said it. I don't think we want the only sample return to come back on a Chinese spacecraft.
Is this a new space race?
It's not Cold War levels of competition, but yes, there's definitely a competitive element. China wants to demonstrate technological leadership, and Mars sample return is a highly visible achievement.
What happens if China succeeds and NASA's mission is still years away?
Politically, it's embarrassing for the US. Scientifically, the world still benefits from returned samples. But there's a question of whether NASA continues with MSR if China has already done it.
Would they really cancel the mission?
Depends on the science case for additional samples and the political will to spend billions on being second. Some scientists argue multiple sample return missions are valuable. Different landing sites, different samples, complementary data.
But Congress might say, China already did it. Why are we spending $11 billion?
Exactly. The political justification gets much harder.
Let's talk about the money, because $11 billion is an incomprehensible amount of cash. Put that in perspective for me.
Okay, so NASA's total annual budget is about $25 billion. MSR at $11 billion would consume nearly half of 1 year's budget, except it's spread over a decade or more.
So maybe $1 billion a year?
The Independent Review Board estimated needing $850 million to $1 billion annually during peak development. That's coming out of NASA's science budget, which is roughly $7 to $8 billion per year.
So MSR would eat 12 to 15% of all NASA science funding annually.
Right. And that comes at the expense of other missions. The Dragonfly mission to Titan cost about $3.35 billion. NEO Surveyor is about $1.2 billion. Da Vinci to Venus is $850 million. MSR crowds all of them out.
Can't NASA just ask for more money?
They can ask. Congress decides. And Congress cut NASA's budget by $500 million in 2024, the opposite direction of what NASA wanted.
Why?
Broader federal budget constraints, debt ceiling negotiations, competing priorities. Space exploration isn't typically a top concern when there are infrastructure bills, defense spending, and social programs to fund.
So NASA has to work within a constrained budget.
Always. And MSR was set up with what the review board called unrealistic budget expectations from the beginning. The decadal survey said it should cost $5 to $7 billion. NASA started planning around that number.
But reality disagreed.
Reality very much disagreed. Turns out, building unprecedented technology, coordinating international partners, and launching multiple missions to Mars costs more than initial estimates.
Whose fault is that?
Everyone's and no one's. The scientists wanted ambitious science. The engineers underestimated complexity. The administrators made optimistic assumptions to get approval. Congress underfunded it. It's a systemic failure.
Is MSR the most expensive NASA science mission ever?
In inflation-adjusted terms, probably not. The James Webb Space Telescope cost about $10 billion total. But Webb was an astronomy flagship with broad scientific goals. MSR is a planetary mission with a narrower focus, so the cost per scientific objective is higher.
What's the most expensive NASA program overall?
The Space Shuttle program cost about $209 billion over its lifetime, inflation-adjusted. The Apollo program was about $280 billion in today's dollars. So MSR is expensive, but not record-breaking.
Except those were human spaceflight programs with political motivations beyond science.
Correct. MSR is purely a science mission, which makes the $11 billion price tag harder to justify politically.
Could private industry do it cheaper?
That's what NASA's hoping to find out. They solicited proposals from commercial companies, and responses ranged from $5.8 billion to $7.7 billion. Still expensive, but cheaper than the original plan.
Who submitted proposals?
NASA hasn't publicly disclosed all the details, but companies like SpaceX, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Rocket Lab are all potential bidders.
You mentioned SpaceX earlier. Could Starship really do this mission?
Theoretically, yes. Starship is designed to carry over 100 tons to Mars. You could land the entire sample return vehicle, lander, Ascent rocket, orbiter, return capsule, in one mission.
That sounds way simpler than NASA's multi-mission approach.
It is, but Starship is still in development. It's only done a handful of test flights, none to orbit with payload. Banking on unproven technology is risky.
But wasn't the whole problem that NASA's design relies on unproven technology?
That's a fair point. At least Starship is being tested, but there's a difference. Starship is SpaceX's core business. If it fails, they iterate and try again. MSR is a one-shot mission with no room for failure.
Could you send 2 Starships, one as backup?
You could, but now you're doubling costs, and you still need to develop the Mars Ascent capability, the sample handling, the Earth return. Starship solves the delivery problem, not the entire mission.
What about Rocket Lab? They're smaller but scrappy.
Rocket Lab actually proposed a mission concept using their Electron rocket and a firm fixed price contract. The idea is to simplify everything. Single-stage liquid MAV, proven technology, aggressive cost control.
Would that work?
Maybe. It depends on whether simple and proven is actually achievable for Mars sample return. But the approach is appealing. Fixed price means the company absorbs overruns, not NASA.
That's how SpaceX contracts often work.
Right, and it's been successful for cargo and crew to ISS. But Mars is harder than low Earth orbit.
So what's the path forward?
NASA presented 2 main options in January 2025. Option A uses a modified JPL sky crane, the proven landing system from Curiosity and Perseverance, with an estimated cost of $6.6 to $7.7 billion.
Still not cheap.
Nope. Option B uses a commercial heavy lander with a cost of $5.8 to $7.1 billion. Both options aim to return samples in the mid-2030s, faster than the 2040 timeline, but still not as fast as China.
And the decision?
Punted to the Trump administration. Jared Isaacman, the new NASA administration nominee, will have to choose, and his decision will shape American planetary exploration for the next decade.
What's Isaacman likely to choose?
Hard to say. He's a commercial space advocate and close with Elon Musk, which might favor option B or even a Starship-based approach. But he's also a pragmatist who will have to work within budget realities.
Is there any scenario where MSR gets canceled entirely?
Possible, but unlikely. The scientific value is too high, and the political optics of canceling after billions spent would be terrible. But it could get drastically rescoped. Smaller sample size, different architecture, longer timeline.
What do scientists think about all this?
They're frustrated. Ken Farley, the Perseverance project scientist, said the situation was disappointing and surprising, and that the team felt a sense that somehow everybody had let NASA down.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. These scientists have dedicated years to this mission. They've successfully collected amazing samples, and now they're watching the return mission fall apart due to factors outside their control.
What about the engineers and project managers?
Mixed feelings. Some acknowledge the technical challenges were underestimated. Others are frustrated by budget cuts and changing requirements. There's a sense that MSR was set up to fail from the start with unrealistic expectations.
Could NASA have done anything differently?
In hindsight, yes. They could have invested more in MAV development earlier. Remember, concept studies started in 2001, but serious development didn't begin until much later.
They could have pushed for more realistic budget estimates up front instead of lowballing to get approval.
So they played budget games and got burned.
That's part of it.
There's a culture in NASA where you propose low numbers to get missions approved, then deal with overruns later. It worked in the past, but doesn't anymore.
Why not?
Congress is less tolerant of cost growth, budgets are tighter, and there's more competition for limited funds. The James Webb overruns caused a lot of pain and scrutiny. MSR doesn't have the political protection Webb had.
Because there's no pretty pictures.
Basically. Webb produces stunning images that captivate the public. MSR produces rocks that only scientists get excited about. Harder sell.
That seems unfair to Mars science.
Science funding has never been entirely about merit. Politics, public appeal, and timing all matter.
All right, let's talk about the bigger picture. What does all this mean for Mars exploration beyond just sample return?
It's a pivotal moment. If NASA can't pull off MSR, arguably the most important Mars mission ever, what does that say about America's ability to lead in planetary exploration?
You're saying this is about more than just one mission?
Absolutely. This is about institutional capability, technical leadership, and international prestige. If China succeeds and NASA fails, it shifts the narrative about who's leading in space.
Does that actually matter?
Depends on your perspective. Scientifically, we all benefit from return samples regardless of who brings them back. Politically and economically, leadership matters for funding, workforce development, and industrial capability.
So this is about jobs and national pride?
Partly, but also about maintaining the infrastructure and expertise to do hard things in space. If NASA stops being the gold standard, where does that leave us?
Where does it leave us?
Potentially dependent on other nations for critical capabilities. There's strategic value in being able to mount complex deep space missions independently.
What about human missions to Mars? How does this affect those plans?
Bill Nelson said, it's the decade of the 2040s that we're going to be landing astronauts on Mars. If we can't return samples robotically by 2040, how credible is landing humans by 2045?
Fair point.
Sample return is technically simpler than human missions. Smaller payloads, no life support, no return crew capsule. If this is falling apart, human missions are fantasy.
Unless someone like SpaceX does it commercially.
That's the wild card. SpaceX is developing Starship for Mars human missions independent of NASA's plans. If they succeed, it upends the entire paradigm.
Could Musk actually put humans on Mars before NASA?
It's possible. SpaceX operates on a different timeline and risk tolerance than NASA. They iterate fast, accept failures as learning experiences, and don't need congressional approval for every decision.
But do they have the expertise for sample return or astrobiology?
That's where partnerships would come in. SpaceX provides transportation, NASA or international partners provide scientific payloads and mission planning.
Is that model viable?
Increasingly, yes. The Commercial Crew Program showed that NASA can successfully partner with private industry for complex missions. Extending that to Mars is logical.
Would that make MSR irrelevant?
Not irrelevant, but potentially redundant if commercial missions are collecting samples anyway. The value proposition changes.
Okay, stepping back, if you had to bet, what happens to MSR?
I think some version moves forward, probably scaled down, and cheaper than the original plan. China's competition provides political motivation to not quit entirely, but it won't be the flagship mission it was supposed to be.
And who returns samples first?
My money's on China for 2031, with NASA following several years later, maybe 2035, 2037 if things go well.
And the scientific value of being second?
Still high. Different landing sites provide different geologic context, more samples mean better statistical analyses, and frankly, independent verification is important in science.
So 2 sample returns are better than 1?
Absolutely. The frustration is that NASA had a decade head start with Perseverance already on Mars collecting samples and squandered it through poor planning and execution.
That's damning.
It's the truth. This should have been America's triumph, and instead it's become a cautionary tale.
What's the lesson here?
Multiple lessons. First, don't lowball costs to get approval. Be honest about what things actually cost. Second, invest in technology development early, not late. Third, maintain institutional expertise in critical areas like launch vehicle development.
And fourth?
Don't underestimate your competitors. China's space program is real, capable, and moving fast. Treating them as secondary players was a mistake.
Is there any silver lining to this situation?
Maybe. The crisis forced NASA to solicit new ideas and consider commercial approaches. Some of those concepts are promising and could lead to better mission architectures.
So, innovation through desperation?
Something like that. Sometimes you need a crisis to break out of old patterns.
All right, final question. In 50 years, how will we remember this moment?
If China succeeds and NASA eventually follows through, we'll remember this as the beginning of multinational Mars exploration, a shift from U.S. dominance to shared leadership.
And if NASA cancels MSR?
Then we'll remember it as the moment America ceded planetary exploration leadership to China. That would be historically significant and not in a good way.
No pressure on the new administration.
Right? Jared Isaacman's first major decision could determine the trajectory of American space science for decades.
Do you think he understands that?
I hope so. He's a smart guy with deep space experience, but he's also walking into a political minefield with no easy answers.
What would you do if you were in his position?
I'd probably go with option B, the commercial heavy lander approach. Accept a higher cost than ideal, but cheaper than the original plan, leverage commercial capability where possible, and commit to a realistic timeline, even if it means being second to China.
And live with being second?
Being second but successful is better than being first but failing. NASA's reputation can recover from being beaten to Mars samples. It can't recover from an $11 billion failure.
That's pragmatic.
That's reality. Sometimes you have to accept that you're not going to win every race and focus on finishing strong.
Do you think the American public will accept that?
Honestly, most Americans don't follow space missions that closely. The people who care, space enthusiasts, scientists, policy wonks, will be disappointed but understand the constraints.
And Congress?
Congress will care if it's a scandal, not if it's a measured decision. As long as costs are controlled and progress is made, they'll move on to other issues.
So this $11 billion crisis might just fade away?
The crisis will resolve one way or another. But the underlying issues, unrealistic expectations, inadequate budgets, competition from China, those aren't going away.
Sounds like we have more episodes to cover.
Definitely. This is just one chapter in the ongoing story of space exploration.
Well, on that note, we should wrap up. Elena, thank you for walking us through this absolute mess of a mission.
My pleasure. Though mess might be too kind.
Fair. For everyone listening, the key takeaways: NASA's Mars sample return mission has ballooned from $5 billion to $11 billion, and the timeline has slipped from 2033 to 2040. China's Tianwen-3 mission is launching in 2028 and returning samples by 2031. The technical challenges are immense, particularly the Mars Ascent vehicle, and the political and budgetary realities make this mission's future uncertain.
We're watching a fascinating moment in space history. Either NASA pulls off a miraculous recovery, or we witness the shift in planetary exploration leadership to China.
No middle ground?
Not really. This is too high profile and too expensive to be just another mission. Whatever happens will define NASA's capabilities for the next generation.
Well, I guess we'll be watching.
Thanks everyone for listening to the $11 billion Mars mission falling apart while China races ahead. I'm Marcus Chen.
And I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez. Until next time, keep looking up, even when the missions you're looking up at are falling apart.
That's one way to end it.